This is character creation utilizing Adobe Photoshop by Mark Ellis for the YouTube for Educators class, Boise State University Edtech class 597. Your objectives for this lesson will be: learn to draw a character, 2. Learn to color the character, and 3. Add a drop shadow. I will be using a device called a graphics tablet, and one of the benefits of the graphics tablet is not only can you use a mouse on it, but you can also use a pen, which makes drawing this character a lot easier. Before we get started with Photoshop, there are a couple things that I would like to show you. Usually when you open up Photoshop, this is the screen that you will see. The big white area is known as your canvas. This is where you're going to do your artwork at. Over here to the right is a tool palette. This is where you've got your brushes, your erasers, your paint bucket, so forth, and other effects that you can do. Over here is two other palettes that are open. One is a history palette, and one is our layers palette. We're going to be using our layers palette in a moment, but we don't need the history palette. So all we need to do to get rid of that is to click on a small X. So if you have any other palettes open besides your layers and your toolbar over here, which has all your brushes and everything on it, you can shut those down. Before we draw our character, there's a couple things that you need to know about. First of all, in the right hand corner of our screen is our layers palette. Now, layers are nothing more than stacking pieces of artwork on top of each other. To use the layer you want, just click on it. And in this case, layer 1 is the background here, the white background. Layer 2 is going to be the layer we draw on with our black color. Now, to choose a color, all I have to do is come down here, click on the top box, and you can choose your color, whatever color you need. The little white box in the background is your background color, but we don't need to worry about that right now. One other thing I wanted to tell you before we get started is up here under your edit menu, anytime you goof up, you can always undo your last step. If you want to keep going back steps, just keep clicking the step backward. Now we're ready to draw our character. We're going to use this brush tool right here. Click on that, and you'll see a couple tools here. You want the top one, which is the brush tool. Click on that. Now we're ready to draw our character. We're going to draw a very basic shape. This is not hard to do at all. Just follow the directions and practice on paper if you want to. But you can also use it on Photoshop. We're going to draw like a hot dog shape with a little hook in it. And then most of these are just triangles and circles. So we're going to draw a triangle here for the mouth. And then we're just going to draw another semicircle off of that. And then we're going to draw another semicircle like a backward C above that. Then we're going to finish our circle off here to complete the head. Then we're going to draw a couple lines for here. These are very basic shapes that you can use to make a character with. Then we're going to draw a semicircle again, this time a part of a C circle. There you go. And then a circle over here. Add some depth to your character. You do that. There you go. His eyelids are half shut. Now we're going to draw a couple of dots for eyes. And then we're going to add another triangle shape in here. That adds some depth to the mouth. One last backward C to complete the ear. And I believe we have our character's face complete. We might add a couple more sprigs of hair up at the top. There we go. And there you have it. Your character's face is complete. Now, before we get started with the coloring of the character, I want to point out something very important to you. And that is that you cannot have any gaps in any of the lines on your character. And a very good example of that is right here underneath the nose. And the reason you don't want that to happen is as we fill in our colors, utilizing the fill bucket, which I'm going to show you in a minute, if you leave a gap right there, watch what happens. See, the whole screen fills up rather than just his face. Now we're going to fix the problem, and I'll show you what happens here. Now we will use the paint bucket again and see what happens. See? It filled in only the spot that we wanted it to. So make sure that all of your lines are connected throughout. Okay, we have our character drawn. Now what we want to do is color our character in. We will do so utilizing the paint bucket tool, which I just showed a second ago, but I want to go in greater depth with it. To use a paint bucket tool, just click on this little icon here that looks like a paint bucket. Take your paint bucket over. As you can see, the icon has changed to the paint bucket, and just click on the area that you want to fill in. Now we're going to color the eyelids next, and I would like to do that in a different color. So I'm coming down here to my tool palette, and you click on the very top square, and it opens up your colors palette. And we want to make a slightly darker color, so we click on this area right here and hit OK. And we take our paint bucket once again and we fill in those places. And you'll notice it's a little darker than the other parts of the face. So there you have your eyelids. The next thing we're going to fill in is the mouth. Once again, clicking on the color palette, and we're going to select, let's do red. Now if you want to change the colors here, just click on that bar and you move over here, you click on that. There you go. And now fill in the area. Now you have your mouth area filled in. Follow the same steps for filling in these areas with white as well. We are going to go back to our layers palette again, and remember what I told you, that layers are like stacking pieces of art on top of each other. In this case, we're going to use layer 1, which will not affect anything that is on layer 2, which is where our face is. So we select layer 1. We already have our paint bucket selected, and I went down here and I chose green from the color palette, which I showed you earlier. All I have to do now is just click on the background color. And just the background is changed. Isn't that amazing? Now that we have our character colored in Photoshop, we're going to go back up and use our layers palette once again. Layers are very important in Photoshop. As you may remember, we were working on layer number 1, which is where we put our background green color. We want to go back to layer number 2. And what we're going to do to layer number 2 is we're going to add a drop shadow to the face. Very easy to do. We go down to the FX button, which stands for Effects. Click on that, and we go to the menu item that says Drop Shadow. Now you're going to notice something really cool that happens as soon as we click on Drop Shadow. The drop shadow will be added to your character automatically. Watch this. As you can see, a new box is opened up, but down here your shadow is already added to your character. Now you can go back and adjust key elements of the shadow. For example, distance. How far do you want the shadow to be from your character? In this case, we'll put it at a modest distance. Spread is the darkness of the shadow. And size is the one I'm really concerned with here, this slider, because it makes it look like an airbrush effect in the background. See that? Beautiful. We'll hit OK. And there you have a drop shadow effect to your character. During this lesson, you learned how to 1. Draw the character, 2. Color the character, and 3. Add a drop shadow. I highly encourage you to experiment with Photoshop and learn different techniques and effects. You may want to refer to this lesson over and over again until some of the points become second nature, and it will also help you become interested in other aspects of Adobe Photoshop. Thank you very much for your attention.